The reading complete question type looks like this. You will be given a paragraph, which will consist of a few sentences, and many of the sentences will have incomplete words. Reading complete comes in section 2 of the test, so it is mixed in with read aloud and listen and type. It appears 3 to 6 times in that section. And it is very similar to fill in the blanks. The difference is that for reading complete, you will have multiple sentences and multiple words missing letters. For fill in the blanks, you had just one sentence and one word with missing letters. You will also have more time for reading complete questions. You will have 3 minutes for each one. In comparison, you had just 20 seconds for each fill in the blanks question. Here are the tips for success for reading complete. First, use everything you learned for fill in the blanks on this question type. So all of the strategies and tips and tricks that we learned for fill in the blanks, they all apply here for read incomplete. The next tip is relax and slow down. In my experience, you have to work very fast for read and select, which is just 5 seconds per question, and then continue working very fast on fill in the blanks, which is just 20 seconds. But for read incomplete questions, I found that the 3 minutes was plenty. So you don't get any extra points for answering questions quickly on the DET. So use all of the time that you have for each question type. So for read incomplete, you can slow down, you can take a breath, relax for a moment, and then you can answer the question, or you can finish answering the question and then take a short break so that you can just relax a little bit after having to go so quickly on the other questions. Don't panic if the questions get harder. So, like for other question types that we've talked about in this course, the read incomplete questions are also adaptive. So if you get questions correct and you're doing well, then the questions will get increasingly more difficult, which is a good thing. That means that Duolingo believes that your English is quite strong. Tip number 4 is understand the context. To do this, make sure that you always read the title and read the first and last sentences, because in read incomplete questions, the first and last sentences in the paragraph will not have missing words. They will be complete. That is so you can read them and get context, so make sure that you do that. Let me show you some examples. So here is the title. Every read incomplete passage will have a title. And then the first and last sentences won't have words that are missing letters. They will be complete. So you can always read the first and last sentence. By reading the title, the first and last sentences, you can really have a good sense of the context of the passage. So in this example, the title is Types of Fossil Fuels. Fossil fuels were formed in the earth hundreds of millions of years ago and have many uses today. The last sentence is, today, many people use it for a wide range of products, including gasoline for transportation and oil for heating. So you can see from the title and the first and last sentences that this passage is about fossil fuels and how people use them. That is valuable information that will help you to figure out the missing letters for the words in this passage. Tip number 5 is read the passage. Even though many of the words will be missing letters, you still want to read the passage. That way you can pick up even more clues about the context. So looking at this example again, types of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels were formed in the earth hundreds of millions of years ago and have many uses today. The blank fossil blank to blank remains blank plants, and so on. It's awkward to read it out loud like I was doing because I have to say blank, but if you read it in your mind, it won't be so awkward. So you can read through, but to point out some things, right? You can see resources, formed, petroleum, crude, early, used. These are all words that just help to get your brain ready to identify the missing letters. And tip for success number 6 is get the easy ones first. So focus on filling in the words that are missing letters that you can get easily. The reason is that if you can get some words, that will help you get other words. Which means that if you can't get a word, don't worry, just skip it and come back to it. You don't want to get stuck on one word and use up all of your time just trying to get that one word. Instead, if the answer isn't obvious to you, then you should move on to the other words. Get the easy ones first, because again, once you have more words filled in, that's more context, and that will help you figure out the letters that are missing, what those missing words are. Let's go through an example so that you can see how to approach questions of this type. We'll use this example that we've been working with in this lesson about fossil fuels. So start by getting the easy ones. So just read through the passage, and when an answer jumps out to you, then type it in. This is because the more words you have filled in the passage, the easier it becomes to get the remaining words. So I'm just going to read through and see which words I can get. So the blank fossil, I don't know what that first blank is, so I'll just leave it. The blank fossil refers to, that answer jumped out, to blank, the remains, blank plants, of plants, and so on. So let's just pretend that I kept going and I was able to get a lot of them like this. But there were still 3 words that I couldn't figure out what they were, so I need to come back to them and spend more time with them. The first one is in the second sentence. The blank fossil refers to the remains. And now I'm going to slow down and use all of those tips and tricks and strategies that we looked at for read and select here. So I'm going to use the grammar trick and identify the part of speech. So the blank fossil, well, the is an article. It's the definite article. And articles are used with nouns. So I know that the incomplete word here that starts with te needs to be a noun. Okay, so with that clue, I keep looking in the sentence for other clues. The blank fossil refers to the remains of plants. Okay. Now the answer jumps out to me, and it is the term. So a very common expression in English is the term blank refers to. So the term global warming refers to the process of the earth getting hotter, right? So that phrase, the term blank refers to, is one that I've seen many times, and therefore, when I had filled in more of the sentence, then my brain realized, oh, that's the phrase that's being used here, so the missing word is term. That sort of process where the idea jumps out to you because it's a phrase that you recognize is very common when answering fill in the blanks or reading complete. All right, the next missing word, or the incomplete word, I should say, comes here. One type of blank used fossil fuel, blank petroleum. So let's use the grammar clue. One type of blank used fossil fuel. Well, I know that this incomplete word is modifying used, and used is an adjective, and adverbs modify verbs and other adjectives. So I know that my incomplete word here that starts with WID is an adverb. And adverbs in English typically end with ly. So that's my first guess, is I'm looking for a word that starts with WID and ends with ly. You may be able to get the answer already, but let's see if I can get some more clues here. So one type of blank used fossil fuel, blank petroleum. Oh, okay. The answer jumps out to me again because it's a phrase widely used. One type of widely used fossil fuel, blank petroleum. So like I said before, these phrases floating around in your brain that you've picked up through reading English really help you because usually the answer will sort of pop into your mind once your brain recognizes the missing part of a phrase like this. All right, the final incomplete word I have comes here. One type of widely used fossil fuel, blank petroleum. All right, this one is now very easy because the rest of the sentence is complete and it makes the incomplete word here very clear. So, one type of widely used fossil fuel, that's my subject. And my incomplete word here is the verb. So I'm looking for a verb that begins with I and is just 2 letters. Can you get this one? The answer is. One type of widely used fossil fuel is petroleum. Very easy. Cool. All right, so to recap again, you want to go through the passage, get the easy ones first, and then go back and work on the hard ones using all of the clues and tips and tricks and strategies we've been looking at. The final tip for success is to proofread. So remember, anytime you have to type in an answer on the test, save time to proofread. So let's proofread this response. The term fossil refers to the remains of plants and animals from which these resources were formed. One type of widely used fossil fuel is petroleum, a liquid mixture that is also known as crude. Oh boy, there's a typo. I wanted to type crude oil, but you can see that I typed OI. So I need to fix this, otherwise I'm going to lose points. The correct spelling, what I meant to type, is oil. That is also known as crude oil. Early civilizations used petroleum as a heat source. Great. So by proofreading, I was able to eliminate that mistake and make sure that I get full points. How to improve on read and complete. You want to practice read and complete questions. So this is a good question to practice with and learn and practice with the strategies and the timing and all of this. And it's important that as you're answering these questions, as with other questions, when you get something wrong, make sure you understand why it was wrong. Don't just go to the next question. Really slow down and figure out what you did wrong. So perhaps you didn't know what a word is, so you should look up that word. Perhaps you misunderstood some other part of the sentence, but really work to make sure you understand why the correct answers are the correct answers. If you look up words, make sure you write them down and write down their definitions or translations. As I keep saying, you need to do that so that you can actually learn the word. If you just write the word down without the definition or translation, it's not really going to be an effective way to learn that word and to be able to use that word in your writing and speaking. You want to expand your vocabulary by reading English. So fundamentally, the reading complete question tests your vocabulary. The best way to expand your vocabulary in English is by reading. The other thing that I hope is clear through the example that we did together is that your brain will give you the answers by recognizing patterns and phrases in a passage. So the more time you spend reading English, the more your brain is naturally, automatically going to pick up on those phrases and patterns, and the answer will pop into your mind. So that's why these read and complete questions are easy for native speakers like me, and why the answer often becomes so clear is because we've read so much. Our brain identifies the patterns and starts to figure out what the missing word is without us even trying. So you can definitely do that too by just reading a lot of English. To read in particular, I recommend again the BBC and young adult books. Final thing, make sure that you regularly review the words you write down. You can't just look at a word one time and expect to remember it. You have to come back to that word on a regular basis. All right, so that's it for Read and Complete. Best of luck in the exercises. I'll see you in the next lesson.